Hello, viewers, and welcome to this week's episode of the Live Conversations. This program is brought to you by the Contact Center Association of Zimbabwe, which is the leading voice in advocating for great customer experience. And this is a platform that we use to discuss more of great customer experience, service excellence, as well as practical service delivery. I'm your host, Carol Konje. And as usual, we bring in different customer experience experts in the studio to discuss more of these issues. And today I'm joined by Mr. Hope Chizuzu, who is responsible for client relationship management at the city of Harare. Mr. Chizuzu, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to have you. Great to have you, viewers. We hope today we'll have a different way of looking at customer experience. You know, with the city of Harare,
Yes.
very metropolitan in every request.
And today we are going to be talking of how effective communication can create a great customer experience.
Communication, by its very nature, it's something that talks more about transaction. I talk to you, you talk to me back. During that process, I also expect feedback, the same way you also expect feedback. So communication can only be effective if it is two-way. Then after that, you create a terminus where you almost always congregate around that subject, so that when it is a business transaction, it is not one-sided. It is not me selling to you only, but it is also me having to understand that the product that I've sold to you has actually given you or added some value, either to your pocket or to your style.
Why is effective communication important?
Effective communication is important because of the feedback aspect. I need to know that client A or client B is either happy or unhappy with the service that we would have offered them, or a service that we would have promised to offer them. If I have to develop or to improve on my product, that kind of feedback is very critical, in the sense that it gives me the quantum of value that the client expects. And also in the same way, it also talks a lot about the bottom line, because in every business, the business of business is business, and the common denominator in business is the bottom line, which is the money. I sell a product to you because I want the money. You are buying the product from me because you also want the money that is involved in that transaction. So effective communication is critical, in the sense that it gives us the necessary awareness to either continue in the transaction or to improve it.
But just by talking of customer experience, we are also talking of communication. What is the difference between customer experience and communication? Can we separate the two, or it's just the same thing?
Customer experience and communication sounds and sometimes appeals different, but at the end of the day, these are like your twins. You can hardly separate one from the other, because they are both conceived by the same subject. So in terms of having to get excellent or good customer experience, you also need to be very much aware of your communication. How effective is it? Because effective communication also unlocks value. It also ingratiates a lot of interest in your clients, or in your would-be clients, or in those that you would have certainly transacted with. It normally starts with perhaps a one-on-one type of a situation, and during that process you'll end up even having to have instant messaging, then into your WhatsApp, and then into your email. And in that entire process, you are trying to improve how you then communicate with your client, and by so doing, you're offering each other an experience in customer management, an experience in building relationship, an experience in even talking about your products. Sometimes corporates don't give their clients opportunities or windows through which they can then feedback on what would have happened during the course of the transaction. And these bridges actually needs to be built, needs to be actually propagated, so that in the process, I also pick out points that are weak from the other end. And at the same time, in my endeavor to try and improve that, we are also improving the quality of the product or even the service excellence. And in the same process, even those that do get a service from us will also learn something during that transition. So it's very important to know that communication is not just picking up a mobile number and dial it. It is more about what happens during the transaction period. So clearly, we need to be very aware of how we communicate, because if you communicate badly, you are also communicating. You are telling us about your product. You are telling us about your corporate, that you don't really mind about the quality of your product. But I understand every other corporate is very much concerned about the product that they produce, so that the clients in the process are happy, and then they increase exponentially. By so doing, it also widens the bottom line.
Mr. Chisuzu, you are responsible for client relationship management at a big organization like Sito Ferrari. And there has been so many concerns regarding customer experience, especially at Sito Ferrari. Why is communication critical in customer experience? We're talking of what are the challenges that you then face when you're trying to communicate, or maybe when you communicate, but maybe communicate wrongly. What are the challenges, and why is it critical in customer experience?
Thank you very much for that question. It is one question that normally people ask in hushed voices. They don't want really to come clean. Most of them do take custody in social media, where they can just fire away and really not worry about the feedback. But you raised a very important point, or a very important statistic, in the sense that it's a very big organization. The City of Harare is the second largest employer in this country after the government of Zimbabwe.
Yes.
So you can understand the quantum of the employers and those that matters that are served by the City of Harare. Literally everybody who lives in this city depends on the City of Harare. And by so doing, the expectations are also huge. The tests are also huge. The variety of lifestyles are also huge. And quite critically, the expectations from a service quality point of view also vary. In fact, there is a staircase of expectations. Students expect a certain level from the City of Harare. The husbands expect a different type of a service, corporates. So in the staircase of expectations, you would hardly find everybody being as happy getting a service that is proportionally designed for students when he or she is not a student. So that complexity of expectations is something that needs to be modeled along the communication. That is why you don't see communication human resources being anybody. You would really need experts, those people who do understand that communication is not your domesticated type of an animal. It is a specific animal that is almost like a species. And because of that, at the City of Harare, we value communication so much that we actually enjoy more the criticism than the commendation. Why? Because from the criticism, that's where we see gaps where we need to improve on. But because of the nature of the City of Harare, it is not your kind of public corporate. It is an organization that is, as a result, that is governed by an act of parliament, the Urban Councils Act. And those considerations should always be put in place. And sometimes where you expect an answer from me right away, you might actually not get it, because we do have a protocol and communication in protocol. So some of those things do not really entice either investors or some of our expected or highly exalted clients, because they want a quick fix. And sometimes the quick fix is not the fix, but the fix is actually in the compound. So when we talk about the city of Harare and the public expectation in how we do offer service, we also need to consider that as big as the city of Harare is, so are the expectations, and sometimes so are the problems. And most of these problems are problems that are either documented, or because they are processes, they do change as we move on.
Mm-hmm. But as you said, you are one of the biggest organizations in the country. Do you then have systems in place to cater for all these people that you talked about?
Absolutely. Systems are in place across the city. That is why you can walk in the district office in Mfakose, you can walk in the district office in Borodale, and you find exactly the same services. But we are talking of people who are in different geographical places, who are also in different zones of expectations. One in Borodale is a low density, the other one is in Mfakose, it's a high density. But we, as the city of Harare, understand that all services that are required in Borodale are also required in Mfakose. But it is now the quantum of expectations that are in Borodale are by nature expected to have more disposable, meaning that they put in their expectation some kind of a style, some kind of a lifestyle that you will not find in Mfakose. You will find a 3,000 square meter stand in Borodale, but you will not find a stand of the same size in Mfakose. And that actually informs our styles, it also informs our appeals, it also informs how people would really want to live. For example, I don't live in Mfakose. There are expectations that I have for my children, there are expectations that I have for my wife, and I also have my own personal expectations that have a lot to do with my style, not so much what is basic or what is rudimentary. And basically, the city of Harare can then not be in a position to tick by tick fulfill all those expectations, because some of them are basically not basics. These are things that have to do with your style.
Is decentralization really functioning now? Because there are times when maybe you need service at a local council, and then you're told, go to Rowan Martin, go to Cleveland, go to this place. Is decentralization really working now?
Decentralization is by definition something that you would really find difficulties in getting to an agreement with a lot of people, depending from which social and political backgrounds they are coming from. Decentralization by nature is designed to make life easy for everybody. You basically don't need to come from Borodale to come to Rowan Martin building to pay for your bills. Certainly, it does not make economic sense. And because of that, you tend to find people, because they are so much used to coming to Rowan Martin to pay a bill, they will leave Mfakose basically to come and pay their bills in the CBD, something that they can do. So when you then analyze a situation like that, you might want to think that decentralization is not working because of that. But it is not working because those that are meant to use it are really not finding it worth the while. There's some kind of a mist to them, when in actual fact decentralization should make life easy for everybody. We have to battle throughout the day, Monday to Friday, with traffic in the CBD. But if you look at the situation, I have a car, my wife has a car, my daughter has a car, and every morning we drive from the same home into the CBD in 3 cars. So basically, it's something that can easily be managed. But it has a lot to do with your tastes and with your lifestyle. Perhaps I don't want to take a ride with my wife every other day. She also needs to take a ride herself another day. The same with my daughter. So those are lifestyle realities that are brought to bear on the city, who are by design supposed to be offering service. And you find at the end of the day, they tend to struggle because the numbers are increasing exponentially, when in actual fact the bylaws that govern that, some of them are as old as your 1937, your 1972. They have really not changed because they were designed to perhaps cater for a Harare that was expected to grow to 1 million people. But now we've got 4 times that number in the city of Harare.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is the live conversations brought to you by the Contact Center Association of Zimbabwe. And today in the studio, I'm with Mr. Hope Chizuzu, who is responsible for client relationship management at the city of Harare. And today we are discussing how effective communication can create a lasting customer experience. Mr. Chizuzu, it seems people have lost confidence in the city of Harare. I'm going to use the city of Harare as a case study more. But what is the key to build customer loyalty? Because personally, whenever someone speaks of city of Harare, it's always the negative things. When you go maybe to your social media pages, people never or don't really say much of the positive things, even if you are doing positive stuff, but people maybe they only look at the negative, or they are used to the negative. What is the key to build customer loyalty?
Loyalty is by nature and by design something that is relational. I cannot be loyal to somebody I don't relate to or I don't have a relationship with. And that's where it starts. Do people have a relationship with the city of Harare, or their relationship is basically transactional? When I say transactional, is they pay for their water bill and then they go back until the next time they need to pay for the water bill. There is no relationship with the city of Harare. There is no communication. There is no feedback, which goes back to what we discussed earlier on when we started about effective communication, where there is need for processed feedback, so that from the feedback, that's when you pick on issues that really need to be built on. So loyalty should be basically birthed in a relationship. What we do encourage all our residents and stakeholders in the city of Harare is we need to build a relationship. We can really not start talking about loyalty when in actual fact loyalty is a result of a relationship that is not only good, but in some instances excellent and personal. I have a personal relationship with my banker. Because when I have a problem that is financial, I don't go to the bank. I go to my banker. Why? Because he understands my concerns. He understands my tests. He understands sometimes even my patterns of application. And that is something that has not been there between the city of Harare and its stakeholders. But now we say we have got a platform where we can have a relationship with each one of them. Because if I then understand what, for argument's sake, Econet or Dairy wants, I may never understand why they would demand certain services from the city of Harare, which services are very necessary for the operation of their business, but we as the city of Harare don't find as important because we do not understand them. So we need first to create a relationship of understanding with the clients or with those that we offer a service. Only then can we then start talking about loyalty. You can only be loyal to somebody that you like. And you don't just wake up not liking somebody or wake up liking somebody from the blue. It does not happen like that. It is relational. So we need to start having a relationship. The clients should feel free to ring us up at the office and say, we haven't had water for the last 2.5 days, but all along we've been having water. What could be the problem? Not like complaining, not like criticizing, but they are raising an issue that needs attention. And because we are supposed to listen to them. If I know that every other third day, if garbage is not collected in Marlborough, I will get a call from Mrs. Jake. I would prepare in my mind, or the team at the office would also prepare that Mrs. Jack will be on the call
and
the moment. Yes. So once you have that kind of a relationship, even Mrs. Jack, when for some reason or the other, the garbage is still not collected after a week, she does not feel an outcast, is the situation now. Because now we do have a relationship. So we need to really open up in this digital world, allow clients to converse with that sometimes 24/7 on various platforms that are available. And because these were not available in the years gone by, it created a situation where now we have a problem where it is very easy to criticize the city of Harare. And most of that criticism, for lack of a better word, is out of ignorance. Ignorance of what is it that they expect from the city of Harare and what capacity the city of Harare has to deal with those issues. So critically, like I said, we need to have a relationship first, then we then worry about customer loyalty.
Okay, but still talking about relationship there, for someone, like you said, for someone to be loyal to you, you have to create a relationship.
Absolutely.
But if you know that Mrs. Jake is going to call and you don't offer the solution, and probably you say things that are not there or lie, how then is loyalty built?
You cannot build a loyalty on falsehoods.
Mm-hmm.
And
but
you
it's
cannot,
happening sometimes.
but you cannot even build a relationship on falsehoods.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine your boyfriend stays you up for 10 minutes. Are you going to trust him the next minute he says, let's go for a dinner dance? You will not. Because there's already doubt in that relationship. Why? Because it would have been built on falsehoods. So my answer to that, it is wrong for any officer of the city of Harare to lie, to offer a service that they know they cannot offer. Because what then that does, it creates a false trust between the client and the service provider. And then when that falls away, as it should always fall away when everything is based on falsehoods, we start having problems. We don't want to create a cycle of crisis management. We have seen that it doesn't work in the world of politics. We don't even expect it to work in the world of business. All we need to do is to create a corporate business relationship between the stakeholders in the city of Harare.
Mm-hmm. All right. The next question I'm going to ask you: what are the strategies one can use to optimize business communication for success, customer success?
Critical question. I think you've taken me by surprise there, but nonetheless a very important question to ask, and optimization is something that every corporate need to be very much aware of. There is absolutely no way you can expect to add value to your corporate without getting training, the necessary training for everything. And if you have got a team of experts that are really not experts in the given genre, you will have problems. And you cannot therefore optimize on something whose design is the extreme opposite of what is expected. If you expect a level of service from your banker and you don't get it, you are not in a position to then optimize on it because it is not there. So the obvious strategy will be, we need to redo our HR policies. This a job for my sister, this job for my grandpa, a syndrome has to go.
Nepotism.
It should not have a city anywhere where we expect a corporate intelligence to be the driving force. Because if I'm going to employ my daughter because she's my daughter and she has no idea what corporate servicing is about, we will always harvest the same lie. And the same lie is the lie that then creates this problem of clients not trusting the city of Harare for anything. Because at some point, if you listen to the social media, and sometimes if you go to bars and pubs, and like nowadays when they are congregating watching the African Cup of Nations, you actually get to hear what people have become used to about the city of Harare. And a very smart city of Harare officer simply needs to listen and then pick on those things, because that is the only time residents and stakeholders will be telling each other the truth.
Yes.
So it's very easy to then, through your HR initiatives, appoint or employ people who have got not only the impetus but the necessary qualities to deliver in those offices. It's really not an easy task to be dealing with the public every single day. But at the same time, you need that dealing with that public in order to increase your revenue. There is no way a client who is disgruntled would want to come and pay his or her $30 at the city of Harare when he says, these guys are not even offering me a service. Why should I pay them? So you need to go back to the basics. What is it that the clients are complaining about? Oh, this is what they are complaining about. What can we do to fix these problems? Because most of these problems, believe you me, they are very human in nature. And therefore you don't need to be a mechanical improvisationist. No, you don't need to do that. It's simply having the right motivation to do the right things.
All right. The city of Harare is guided by a lot of things. It's guided by the Urban Councils Act. We're talking of the bylaws. And sometimes someone can just get arrested. Maybe you've done something wrong, but you're not aware that there was a law that guides this. There's a bylaw that says maybe dogs are not allowed to do this, and how do you ensure that people understand your policy levels? How do you ensure that? Do you even know that they're understanding, or you're just providing information, but can you rate that the residents have understood the policies or are even aware of the policies?
I said at the head of this program that ignorance is really an issue in terms of what the stakeholders and the residents criticize the city of Harare against. Most of which is premised on their lack of understanding on how things operate in the city of Harare. The city of Harare did not just emerge from nowhere. In fact, as a corporate, it is the oldest. It started in 1890, before any other company in this country. And because of that, it has got systems that are as old as that. And then over the years, there have been improvements, and then enactments, your Urban Councils Act, and then it births your bylaws to govern the operations. So it is very incumbent upon the stakeholders and everybody who wants to get involved with the city of Harare to understand everything that is required, either to set up a business or either to run your tuck shop, because all of that is catered for in the bylaws. But because we have become used to doing things our own way, and sometimes because there is a lack of seriousness in policing and in ensuring that bylaws are respected, it has also become like a default way of doing things. That has created a problem that is burgeoning by the time, when in actual fact, if people would understand that it is not allowed to park your vehicle anywhere in the CBD, you will not be having problems of people coming to our offices and say, and rekerwa motkari yangu. Why? Because that guy who took away the car because it has been inappropriately parked in the CBD is simply abiding about why the bylaw is saying. But this guy perhaps has just driven in from Murewa and then parked his vehicle to pick up a few items in a building on the second street or 2 floors up, he has no idea that it is not allowed. And when it is allowed, you have to pay for it. And you will not have, one, parked at the wrong place, and two, you would have parked and not paid for the fee that is required for the hour that he or she is expected to park. You create problem. But in the final analysis of that, you will notice that it is not so much about the city of Harare wanting to tow away your car, but it is also so much about the client not understanding that he or she is required to pay for the 1 hour space that he or she has parked his car. But because these two parties have no time to engage, to teach each other before they act, it becomes a problem. So what we encourage people is they need to be going to our website, going to our social media handles, because routinely every single day we do post information on how to live safe and behave in the city of Harare, on how to create your businesses and grow them in the city of Harare. That kind of information is readily available. We got a huge team responsible for doing that, the corporate and communications team. You will not go away with that information. And now more so, we are very live on our social media handles. And these are issues that if people do inquire about, we are readily available to answer.
All right, Mr. Chisuzu, as we are wrapping up, because we are now running out of time, I'm going to ask you a last question. Please just maybe answer it in a little space of time. The city of Harare is also led by councillors who are also politicians, who are also responsible for setting up certain resolutions within the council. Won't effective communication get affected by politics? We're talking of sometimes politics is put in at the forefront at the expense of service delivery.
Your question is very interesting and very tricky too, but I'll answer it more by explaining the role of the councillors. The role of the councillors is really not to run the city. They are the policy makers of the city. And these are people that are not brought to the city by the city of Harare. These are people who are voted by the residents in the 46 wards of the city of Harare. So the choice of the said councillors is certainly not a problem for the city of Harare.
Okay.
These are people in Borodem who would sit down and decide that we are going to elect Mr. So-and-so to be our councillor for this ward for the duration of the term. What they bring to the city of Harare is what the residents would have evaluated and seen fit toward that office. And more importantly, the councillors are not officers of the city of Harare. That is why individuals like me are employed by the city of Harare to effectively implement those issues that would have been raised by the councillors or by the residents via the councillors, because the residents basically represent their wards. That is why in the city of Harare we've got 46 wards and 46 councillors representing each of that ward. But over and above that, we've got thousands of officers in every city of Harare office offering service from your building to your waste management. So when it comes to service delivery, it is not the burden of the city of Harare councillors. It is the burden of the town clerk, who is the CEO of the organization, and his team. The councillors are basically there to offer direction. So whether they are politically active or hyperactive, their politics do not find its way into the corridors of application at the city of Harare.
All right, Mr. Chisuzu, thank you so much for joining us.
No, it's my pleasure.
Yes.
Interesting that you have successfully made sure that this becomes a City of Harare interrogation exercise.
All right. So thank you so much, our viewers, for watching the CCAZ live conversations. And today in the studio, I was with Mr. Hop Chizuzu, who is responsible for client relationship management at the City of Harare. And we were discussing on how effective communication can create a lasting customer experience. And as you heard, he said, before you are loyal to someone, build a relationship. And we urge all customers, we urge all customer experience practitioners to build relationships with their organizations. I'm Carol Konje. See you next week.